Ivory Coast says goodbye to French troops, latest African nation to challenge colonial legacy. Welcome to the Bold African Voice, BAV, where we critically analyze the latest developments shaping Africa's future. I'm Abdul Karim Kargbo, born and raised in Africa. Today we delve into a major turning point for the continent, France's military pullback from African nations. What does this mean for Africa's quest for security, sovereignty, and independence? Stick with us as we explore the evolution of France's presence in Africa and what lies ahead for African nations in this new geopolitical landscape. In recent years, France's military footprint in Africa has undergone significant transformations, marked by the withdrawal of troops from several nations and a strategic shift in its defense posture across the continent. This video examines the critical developments, compares the situation across Africa, and offers a forward-looking perspective on France's military engagements in the region. Recent developments. Withdrawal from Ivory Coast. On December 31, 2024, Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara announced that French troops would begin withdrawing from Ivory Coast in January 2025, concluding a decades-long military presence. This decision reflects a broader trend in West Africa, where nations are reassessing their military relationships with former colonial powers. The French military's infantry battalion in Port Bouet, managed by the French army, is slated to be handed over to Ivorian forces.
Always with great pleasure and a deep sense of responsibility that I address you, knowing that our collective strength and determination will guide us towards a brighter future. May this year bring prosperity, health, and happiness to all of us as we continue to build a nation that we are proud to call home. The year 2024 has indeed allowed us to achieve truly significant advancements in a challenging sub-regional and international context. We have managed to maintain the development momentum of our country thanks to the consolidation of peace, security, and the strengthening of national cohesion. Peace is a core and fundamental value for us that we must safeguard under all circumstances through dialogue. It is in this spirit that we indeed address the situation of our two gendarmes who were detained in September 2023 in Burkina Faso while they were trying to apprehend illegal gold miners along the border. I am pleased that the path of dialogue we chose allowed for their return to Côte d'Ivoire, for the happiness of their families. I salute their courage, bravery, and determination, and through them, all of our armed forces, our gendarmerie, and our police, recognizing their unwavering commitment to duty and service. My dear compatriots, dear brothers and sisters, we can be proud of our army, whose modernization is now effective. It is in this context that we carefully decided on the coordinated and organized withdrawal of French forces from Côte d'Ivoire. Thus, the camp of the 43rd BIMA, the Marine Infantry Battalion of Port Bouet, will be handed over to the armed forces of Côte d'Ivoire starting this January 2025. To mark this new phase in the life of our army, I have decided to name this camp after General Ouattara Thomas Daquin, a military figure with an exceptional career and the very first Chief of Staff of the Ivorian Army. My dear compatriots, the year 2024 was marked by the perfect organization of the 34th edition of the Africa Cup of Nations football tournament by our country. I want to renew the nation's gratitude and appreciation to our truly magnificent and majestic elephants, champions of Africa for the third time, these creatures of the wild. On the diplomatic front, our country continues to shine internationally. Since December 4th, 2024, the expertise related to the making of our hacheki has been listed as part of UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage. This international recognition makes us proud. I am also pleased to have been chosen by UNESCO as the protector of the Félix Houphouët-Boigny Prize for the search for peace. I will continue to work for the prominence of this prize, as well as for the promotion of the values of peace that our founding father, President Félix Houphouët-Boigny, has bequeathed to us. Furthermore, our compatriot Zainab Zobanse has just set the Guinness World Record for the longest cooking marathon, a first in Francophone Africa. I want to congratulate her for her courage and perseverance. Dear brothers and sisters, the year 2024 also saw the continuation of our investments in the port, road, energy, and the communications sectors. We will continue in this direction with the rehabilitation and expansion of Félix Houphouët-Boigny International Airport to give our country an airport that matches its economic and tourism ambitions. Our national airline, Air Côte d'Ivoire, will launch long-haul flights in a few months, starting with Paris and expanding to Washington, New York, London, Geneva, and other destinations. My dear compatriots, one of our great ambitions is to make every citizen, regardless of their background and social status, a development actor who contributes through their work to the creation of wealth. In terms of education, more and more of our children are completing primary and secondary school each year, and this with almost equal numbers of girls and boys. The number of public colleges and high schools has tripled. We have thus increased from 294 in 2011 to a total of 902 in 2024. In the year 2025, a total of 15 girls' high schools, along with approximately 100 local colleges, are planned to be constructed. This initiative aims to significantly bolster and enhance our current achievements and progress in the field of education. In terms of higher education and scientific research, the completion of the first phase of the universities in San Pedro and Banduku, as well as the ongoing construction of the university in Odiane, will allow us to increase from 3 universities in 2011 to 10 universities in 2025. The competitiveness of our universities and grandes écoles is also improving. The competitiveness of our universities and grande écoles is also improving. This is the case for the National Polytechnic Institute of Yamoussoukro, ranked the best Francophone university in Africa in 2024, after Mohammed VI University in Morocco. We will continue to improve the study and living conditions of our students. In this context, the university campuses, including those of the National Polytechnic Institute and the Higher Normal School, will undergo complete renovations starting in January 2025. We will also increase the number of scholarship students starting from the next academic year. As regards technical education and vocational training, brand new, state-of-the-art training centers will be put into service from 2025 in various regions to provide our children with quality training and job prospects. In terms of health, the coverage of the territory is currently ongoing. From now on, approximately 80% of the population lives within 5 kilometers of health centers, compared to 66% in 2011. To date, 16 million people are enrolled in universal health coverage. In 2025, we will continue the construction of 9 general hospitals, 4 regional hospital centers, the Abobo University Hospital, and the completion of the new Cardiology Institute in Boisquet. My dear compatriots, the implementation of the government's social program is continuing successfully. Currently, approximately 94% of the localities in our nation have reliable and consistent access to electricity. Our ambitious and strategic goal is to ensure that electricity coverage is provided for the entire country by the conclusion of the year 2025. Thanks to our Electricity for All program, 2 million families have already benefited from connections to the electrical grid at the social rate of 1,000 CFA francs. As for drinking water, the government is continuing its efforts to strengthen the capacity for producing drinking water. In this regard, the Water for All project was launched in 2024. It targets 200 sub-prefecture capitals, as well as localities with 4,000 inhabitants and more. The work to extend and densify the distribution networks is also underway in Greater Abidjan and in the interior. Furthermore, the government will continue its actions to reduce social inequalities and protect the most vulnerable households. In this context, the Social Safety Net program, which currently has 230,000 beneficiaries, will be strengthened by adding 70,000 new households in 2025. I instructed Prime Minister Robert Mambe Begret to include households affected by evictions in certain neighborhoods of the Abidjan district. As regards access to housing, to date, nearly 40,000 social and economic housing units have been built and made habitable. Thanks to state support, in particular the tax breaks offered to property developers and significant investments in roads in particular. Moreover, the noteworthy and substantial reforms undertaken in recent years will allow for the production of more social housing by 2025 and impactful. And regarding our farmer parents, our policy to enhance rural incomes has significantly and positively increased the market price of cocoa, which has reached 1,800 CFA francs, compared to a maximum of 1,100 CFA francs in the past. In addition, all coffee and cocoa producers holding a farmer's card will benefit from universal health coverage, such as free of charge, starting in the first quarter of 2025. This is a significant and historic measure in favor of our farmer parents and their families and their loved ones. My dear compatriots, in terms of the economy, Côte d'Ivoire continues to demonstrate its resilience thanks to a solid macroeconomic framework and sound management of our public finances. Economic activity remained strong with a GDP growth rate of 6.1% in 2024 compared to 4.2% at the C2A1 level. It is expected to be around 7% in 2025. The debt of our country certainly indeed remains relatively moderate, with the debt stock currently standing at 56% of GDP, compared to a community threshold of 70% in the UMOA zone. We will continue to maintain the strength of our macroeconomic framework and our public finances to build trust with private, bilateral, and multilateral partners, and of course, for the Ivorians as well. As part of the fight against the high cost of living, the support program for food crop development has improved market supply. Thus, paddy rice production achieved a total of approximately 2 million tons in 2024 compared to 846,000 tons in 2011. With the continued and dedicated continuation of this program and consistent efforts in nutrition, under the supervision of Vice President Chiemoko Meliakone, we are on the right track. In order to successfully and effectively achieve food sovereignty in various regions around the world in the coming years and beyond, my dear and beloved compatriots, Our energy and mining policy is indeed starting to yield significant and tangible results. After the major discoveries of oil and gas and the recent gold mine in Tanda, our status as a sub-regional energy hub is strengthening, and our country has 2 world-class gold deposits. The exploitation of our natural resources, however, raises the challenge of environmental preservation. In this context, Côte d'Ivoire has set itself the ambitious and challenging goal is to significantly increase the share of renewable energies to 45% of our energy mix by 2030. We will also persistently continue to pay special attention to restoring our forest cover and developing climate-resilient agriculture and ensuring sustainable practices. Finally, we will indeed continue our efforts to improve the business environment in order to provide an increasingly competitive and attractive investment climate. In this regard, good governance, as well as the fight against corruption and money laundering, will receive special attention throughout the year 2025. My dear compatriots, working conditions in the public service have improved significantly with the adoption of a new general status for the public service and overall regular salary increases for civil servants every 2 years and consistently in various sectors. It has been ongoing since 2014. We have also commenced a social dialogue with trade unions in order to ensure and foster social peace and collaboration. We will also continue our efforts to empower and promote women through the Support Fund for Women in Côte d'Ivoire and dedicated various initiatives and programs aimed at furthering the cause of gender equality. Thus, more than 420,000 women have been able to access financial resources to create or strengthen income-generating activities. This initiative has empowered women by providing essential financial resources. These resources have enabled them to create or strengthen income-generating activities. My dear compatriots, dear young people, I would like to speak to you now. You are the future of our country. That's why I pay special attention to measures that support your development. I know your desire to express your talent, your thirst for independence, and your need for personal growth to help your families and contribute to the greatness of our beautiful country. The government's youth program is also part of this framework and has already allowed thousands of young people to benefit from it. Moreover, the dynamism of the culture, tourism, and digital sectors offers huge opportunities for job creation and improving the living conditions of young people. That's why we will launch the construction of a city of innovation and culture in 2025. This city will integrate and bring together state-of-the-art and advanced technological infrastructures in an innovative and forward-thinking manner in a single location. It will include incubators, startups, and innovative, dynamic, and vibrant environments, as well as spaces dedicated to the creation and promotion of the arts and culture, fostering collaborative initiatives. Ivorians, my dear compatriots and fellow citizens, dear and cherished friends of Côte d'Ivoire, the year 2025 will be marked by the significant and important presidential election, an event in our nation's history. This election will once again be an opportunity to confirm the political maturity of our citizens, the strength of our institutions, and the deepening of our democracy. I want to assure everyone, as well as all our partners, that the election will be peaceful. It will be transparent, and it will be democratic. We must consolidate the gains made since 2011 to continue our march towards development in peace, unity, and discipline. At the time of the year 2025, I also want to express the nation's solidarity with all those who are going through difficult times, who will spend this holiday season in solitude or in illness. The celebration of the end of year holidays is also an opportunity for forgiveness. That's why, in accordance with Article 66 of the Constitution, and as a result of careful consideration, I have decided to officially grant clemency to about 2,000 common law prisoners convicted of minor offenses. My dear compatriots, dear brothers and sisters, I call on all Ivorians to embrace our beloved and cherished ideals of peace and social cohesion, to contribute their part to the building of a united, harmonious, and prosperous Côte d'Ivoire, a Côte d'Ivoire that we must continue to make shine in Africa and around the world. It is on this hopeful note that I wish each and every one of you, our dear friends and family, our very best wishes for your health, happiness, and prosperity in the upcoming year of 2025. May this new year bring joy and success to all of you. Happy New Year to all of you. Long live the Republic, long live Côte d'Ivoire. May God bless our beautiful country.
Comparative analysis across Africa. The withdrawal from Ivory Coast is part of a larger pattern observed across the African continent: Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Following military coups and rising anti-French sentiment, these countries have expelled French troops, signaling a shift towards greater sovereignty and a re-evaluation of foreign military partnerships. Chad and Senegal, historically considered stable allies, both nations have recently taken steps to end defense cooperation with France. Chad announced the termination of its defense agreement in November 2024, while Senegal's new government has indicated plans to close all foreign military bases, particularly targeting French troops. These developments underscore a significant shift in the region's engagement with France, moving away from traditional military alliances towards a more diversified approach to security and international relations. France's strategic response. In response to these changes, France is re-evaluating its military strategy in Africa. The French government has expressed intentions to reduce its permanent troop presence, focusing instead on defense training and targeted support. This strategic shift aims to adapt to the evolving geopolitical landscape and address the growing local sentiments against foreign military presence. Implications for regional security. The reduction of French military presence raises concerns about potential security vacuums, particularly in the Sahel region, which has been plagued by extremist activities. The withdrawal of French forces from countries like Mali and Burkina Faso has coincided with increased extremist attacks and civilian casualties. The involvement of Russian mercenaries, such as those from the Wagner Group, has been reported in some of these countries, though their presence has been linked to human rights abuses. Looking ahead, prospects. The evolving dynamics suggest a future where African nations seek to assert greater control over their security affairs, potentially leading to new partnerships and defense arrangements. While some countries may turn towards alternative foreign military support, the overarching trend points towards a redefined role for France in Africa, characterized by reduced direct military involvement and a greater emphasis on diplomatic and economic engagements. The shift in African sovereignty, a growing call for autonomy. The trend of expelling French troops highlights a broader continent-wide shift towards African autonomy in both governance and security. African nations are increasingly seeking to assert their sovereignty, moving away from colonial legacies and foreign military influence. This change is particularly evident in the Sahel region, where the strategic interest in French military presence has been questioned, considering growing nationalistic movements and regional instability. Regional security concerns. However, the withdrawal of foreign troops comes with significant security risks, particularly in countries facing threats from extremist groups. In Mali, for example, the absence of French military support has coincided with a rapid deterioration in security conditions, as insurgents linked to al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group have gained ground in several regions. The French military had been a key part of counterterrorism operations in the Sahel, such as Operation Barkhane, which was aimed at preventing the spread of jihadist groups across the region. As French troops depart, the gap left in security operations is being filled by regional forces, local militias, and external actors, such as the Wagner Group. However, these new arrangements have not been without controversy. The involvement of Russian mercenaries, particularly in Mali and Burkina Faso, raises significant concerns over human rights abuses and the long-term effectiveness of foreign paramilitary forces in stabilizing the region. While the Russian presence has been welcomed by some governments seeking to assert their independence from France, it has also sparked criticism from human rights organizations and Western countries. The rise of African security initiatives. In the absence of French military presence, African nations are exploring alternative means of ensuring regional security. The African Union, AU, has made strides in strengthening its peace and security framework, with initiatives like the African Standby Force, ASF, aimed at enhancing Africa's capacity to address security challenges within the continent. The ASF, which has been in development for years, envisions an African-led military force capable of responding to crises and conflicts without relying on foreign intervention. While the ASF is still in its infancy, there is growing optimism that regional organizations and national armies will play a more prominent role in peacekeeping and counterterrorism efforts going forward. Changing geopolitical alliances. As African nations navigate this shift away from French military influence, new geopolitical alliances are emerging. While the French military's exit is a clear sign of diminishing French influence, African leaders are increasingly turning to other powers for support. The growing engagement with Russia, as mentioned earlier, is just one example of this trend. China, too, has been expanding its presence across Africa, not only in economic terms through investments in infrastructure projects, but also through military cooperation. The Chinese government's policy of non-interference in internal affairs, coupled with its growing military presence, has made it an attractive partner for many African nations seeking to diversify their foreign relationships. China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, has further cemented its role as a key player in the continent's development, with military collaborations such as arms sales and joint training programs also increasing. ChinaDaily.com CN. While Russia and China gain ground in Africa, the United States has also remained involved in the continent, primarily through security assistance programs, counterterrorism operations, and partnerships with African militaries. However, the overall sentiment in many African nations is clear. There is a desire for greater control over their own security policies without undue foreign influence. This desire is manifested in the decreasing role of traditional powers like France and the increasing search for more balanced, mutually beneficial partnerships. The influence of nationalism and Pan-Africanism. The decline in French military presence also highlights the growing influence of nationalism and Pan-Africanism, ideologies that emphasize African unity and independence. Many African leaders are tapping into the historical appeal of Pan-Africanism to bolster national pride and unity in the face of external pressures. The sentiment for greater self-reliance is rooted in the continent's historical experience of colonialism and its continued quest for true sovereignty. As African nations assert their autonomy, they are turning to each other for support, focusing on strengthening regional security, trade, and diplomatic ties. This shift is also aligned with efforts to create an African continental free trade area, which envisions a more integrated and self-sufficient Africa. Looking towards the future. As the withdrawal of French troops from Ivory Coast and other African countries continues, the future of Africa's security landscape remains uncertain but ripe with possibilities. The growing trend towards African-led solutions for African problems presents an opportunity for the continent to assert its leadership on the global stage. However, challenges remain, including the need to build robust regional security mechanisms and the risk of increasing militarization and internal conflict as new alliances form. Ultimately, the evolving dynamics in Africa's relationship with France and other foreign powers will shape the future of the continent. As African nations continue to demand greater autonomy and security control, the international community will be watching closely to see how these changes will affect both regional stability and global geopolitics. The outcome will likely influence the continent's path towards true independence and prosperity. As we move forward into 2025, the geopolitical landscape of Africa will continue to evolve. While the withdrawal of French troops marks a significant shift, it is just one piece of a larger puzzle. The need for African nations to develop their own security frameworks, establish robust diplomatic relationships, and assert their independence has never been clearer. These changes are indicative of a broader trend in Africa, as the continent seeks to carve out a future where it is less reliant on former colonial powers and more focused on intra-African collaboration and leadership. The coming years will likely see further transformations as the continent navigates the complexities of autonomy, regional cooperation, and external influence. A path toward African security self-reliance. As African nations continue to evolve in their security strategies, an essential aspect of this shift is the focus on developing indigenous capacities for peacekeeping and counterterrorism. While the French military withdrawal is a clear sign of diminished external influence, it also presents an opportunity for African nations to build more resilient and self-sustaining security structures. Strengthening regional cooperation. One of the most promising developments in the context of this shifting landscape is the strengthening of regional security frameworks. Africa's growing emphasis on regional cooperation is demonstrated by initiatives such as the African Standby Force, ASF, and the East African Standby Force, EASF, which aim to enable African states to independently address security challenges across the continent. These forces are designed to be rapid response units capable of intervening in crises and conflicts without relying on external powers. However, while these forces represent a significant step towards self-reliance, they face challenges, including limited funding, logistical difficulties, and the political will of member states to contribute troops and resources. To complement the ASF and EASF, the African Union, AU, has also been working to establish mechanisms for conflict prevention and resolution. The AU's Peace and Security Council, PSC, has made strides in enhancing Africa's capacity to manage conflicts through diplomatic means, but its effectiveness often remains limited by the political interests of member states and external pressures. The continued growth of regional security forces will likely depend on greater political cohesion among African nations, as well as a sustained commitment to peaceful resolution of conflicts. This could be a pivotal moment for African nations to redefine their security paradigms and determine how they engage with external partners in the future. The role of technology and innovation. As Africa looks to build its own security capacity, the integration of technology into military and security operations is becoming increasingly important. In a rapidly changing global security environment, where threats such as cyber attacks and extremist ideologies transcend national borders, African nations are beginning to harness technology to enhance their military and intelligence capabilities. Countries like Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa have made significant strides in this regard, investing in cyber defense systems, surveillance technologies, and the training of personnel in modern warfare tactics. Additionally, the African Union and individual countries are exploring innovative solutions to address security challenges. For example, drones and unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, have been used for surveillance and reconnaissance in conflict zones. These technologies can provide real-time intelligence and offer an edge in counterinsurgency operations. As African nations increasingly recognize the value of technological innovation in their defense strategies, they are likely to ramp up investments in this sector, potentially making the continent more capable of addressing threats independently. Impact of shifting alliances and new partnerships. As African nations look beyond traditional military alliances with former colonial powers like France, new and emerging geopolitical partnerships are shaping the future security landscape. Russia's growing influence in West and Central Africa is a significant example of how African countries are diversifying their military relationships. The arrival of Russian mercenaries, such as those from the Wagner Group, has sparked both interest and concern in several African nations. While Russia offers military support without the colonial baggage associated with former European powers, its involvement in Africa is not without controversy. The allegations of human rights abuses by mercenaries in countries like Mali and the Central African Republic have cast a shadow over Russia's growing footprint in the region. On the other hand, China's role in Africa has evolved from a purely economic partnership to one that includes security and defense collaborations. China's investment in infrastructure projects, such as the construction of roads, railways, and ports, has been accompanied by the expansion of its military presence in select African countries. China's commitment to non-interference in the internal affairs of African nations, coupled with its growing influence through the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, has made it an attractive partner for governments seeking to diversify their alliances and reduce dependency on Western powers. In addition to these external powers, African countries are also fostering deeper cooperation among themselves. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, which aims to create a single market for goods and services across the continent, reflects Africa's growing sense of unity and self-reliance. This economic integration, coupled with security cooperation, has the potential to create a more stable and unified continent, capable of addressing internal conflicts and external threats. The role of Africa's youth in security and governance. A crucial factor in shaping Africa's future security and governance is the involvement of its youth. Africa is home to the world's youngest population, with a median age of 19. This demographic represents both an opportunity and a challenge for the continent. On one hand, Africa's youth are a source of innovation, energy, and potential for economic growth. On the other hand, they are also the most vulnerable to extremist ideologies, recruitment by armed groups, and social instability. The key to addressing these challenges lies in empowering Africa's youth to play an active role in the continent's governance and security processes. Initiatives aimed at improving education, creating employment opportunities, and fostering political engagement among young people can help reduce the allure of violent extremism and instability. Moreover, as future leaders and policymakers, Africa's youth will be instrumental in shaping the continent's security frameworks and foreign policy, ensuring that Africa's interests are at the forefront of decision-making. The future of French influence in Africa. As French military influence wanes in Africa, it is clear that the relationship between African nations and former colonial powers will need to evolve. France's legacy in Africa, shaped by its colonial past and subsequent military involvement, is being redefined as African nations seek more equitable partnerships. While the exit of French troops represents a symbolic shift, the underlying geopolitical dynamics are far more complex. African countries are not seeking to cut ties with France entirely, but are instead asserting their right to determine their own security and political futures without external interference. France's future role in Africa will likely center on diplomatic, economic, and cultural ties, rather than military interventions. France has a long-standing commitment to supporting Africa's development, particularly through aid programs, infrastructure projects, and trade partnerships. However, as Africa diversifies its external relationships and embraces a more self-reliant approach, France will need to adapt to the changing realities of the continent. This could involve greater cooperation with regional organizations such as the African Union, focusing on shared goals of peace, stability, and economic growth. In the years ahead, the African continent will face a number of challenges and opportunities as it navigates its evolving security landscape. While the withdrawal of French troops marks a significant turning point, it is just one element of a larger, more complex shift in Africa's international relations. As African nations seek to strengthen regional cooperation, enhance their security capacities, and engage with new global partners, they will continue to define their own path toward greater autonomy and self-sufficiency. This ongoing transformation promises to reshape the future of Africa, with the continent positioning itself as a more independent, unified, and resilient force on the world stage. The next chapter in Africa's security and governance will be one written by its own hands. The role of Africa's diverse security landscape. The complexity of Africa's security challenges means that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. While some countries in the Sahel face extremist threats, others grapple with issues such as piracy, human trafficking, and ethnic tensions. This diversity in security challenges requires nuanced, context-specific strategies that are tailored to each country's needs. The regional frameworks being developed, such as the African Standby Force, represent a critical move toward ensuring that Africa can independently address these challenges. However, African nations will need to prioritize effective governance, rule of law, and human rights in order to make these security mechanisms truly effective. Without robust institutions and good governance, even the best security frameworks can falter. This is where leadership will play a pivotal role. A commitment to transparency, inclusivity, and accountability is essential for the long-term stability of the continent. The importance of building internal capacity. For Africa to succeed in this new era of self-reliance, it is crucial to focus on building internal capacities in both military and non-military domains. Education and technology are critical areas where African countries must invest if they are to achieve lasting progress. Education can provide the foundation for a well-informed citizenry, while technological advancements can help African countries tackle modern security challenges more effectively. Moreover, African governments should focus on strengthening civil-military relations to ensure that the military is well integrated into the broader state apparatus and not a source of internal instability. Effective governance and institutions are the bedrock on which African security should be built. Without these, no amount of military or technological investment will lead to long-term peace and stability. Advice to African leaders. As African leaders navigate this period of transformation, they must remain vigilant and proactive in their efforts to ensure the continent's security and prosperity. The shift away from foreign military presence is an opportunity to take control of Africa's future, but it also comes with significant responsibility. Leaders must 1. Invest in indigenous security solutions. Prioritize the development of regional security forces and mechanisms that can operate independently. Collaborating with neighboring countries and regional organizations like the African Union can strengthen the continent's ability to address security challenges without relying on external forces. 2. Strengthen governance and institutions. Political stability, strong institutions, and the rule of law are essential for sustaining peace. Leaders must focus on combating corruption, ensuring human rights, and fostering inclusive governance that brings all sectors of society into the political process. 3. Engage in multipolar diplomacy. Africa's geopolitical position requires diversifying foreign partnerships. While traditional allies like France, the US, and the UK remain important, leaders should seek to expand diplomatic, trade, and security ties with emerging powers such as China, Russia, and regional neighbors. This approach will provide Africa with greater flexibility in dealing with international pressures and challenges. 4. Foster youth engagement. Africa's youth represent the future of the continent. Their inclusion in decision-making processes, both politically and in terms of security, will be critical in shaping a more sustainable, peaceful, and prosperous future. Investing in education, economic opportunities, and political engagement for youth will mitigate the appeal of extremist ideologies and instability. 5. Promote Pan-African unity. Leaders should embrace the spirit of Pan-Africanism, which emphasizes solidarity, unity, and collective development. By supporting institutions such as the African Union and encouraging cooperation within regional groups like ECOWAS, SADC, and the East African Community, African countries can present a united front in both security and economic development. Summary of key messages. 1. Security self-reliance. Africa is shifting away from foreign military influence, seeking to build its own security frameworks through regional collaboration and indigenous capacities. 2. Governance and stability. Strong institutions, good governance, and the rule of law are vital to ensuring that the continent's security efforts are effective and sustainable. 3. Technological innovation. Africa must leverage technology to enhance military, intelligence, and civilian operations in the face of modern threats like cyber attacks and extremism. 4. Diverse partnerships. African countries should diversify their diplomatic and security alliances, balancing relations with both traditional and emerging global powers. 5. Youth empowerment. Engaging the youth is essential to securing a peaceful and prosperous future for Africa, and their involvement in governance and security initiatives will be critical. 6. Pan-African unity. Africa's strength lies in its ability to collaborate and unify across regions to address common challenges, advancing both security and economic goals. In conclusion, Africa is at a crossroads in its journey towards self-reliance and independence. The withdrawal of foreign military presence presents both a challenge and an opportunity for the continent to redefine its future. Through strong leadership, investment in internal capacities, and a commitment to unity and peace, Africa can overcome the challenges of the present and emerge as a global leader in the 21st century. It is time for African nations to embrace their destiny, chart their own path, and build a continent that is truly independent, secure, and prosperous. Thanks for watching The Bold African Voice, BAV. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Africa's evolving security landscape, don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest insights. Join the conversation, and let's continue exploring the future of Africa together.